Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Dog Connection Show. I'm Kathy Tarchioni, my partner Gaetan, and good morning to our special guest, Zach Skow from Marley's Mutts and a whole list of other places. Today we're going to talk about dog's best friend, and that is Zach. I want to tell you guys a little bit that I've known Zach probably since, how long have you been on Facebook, Zach?
Probably 11 years.
Okay, so I've known you because I think we became friends from the very beginning. So about 11 years. I've never met him in person, but we've always followed each other.
Yep.
And I've loved his story. And I know that you guys will too. So say good morning, everyone. Good morning, Gaetan.
Good morning, Kathy. Good morning, Zach.
Good morning.
We have Kathy on the show for 2 weeks in a row.
I
Whoa.
know. Yeah, as you all know, I moved from Phoenix to Las Cruces. My lifelong friend Kelly Barker and myself bought a house together, and we are living the life of the Golden Girls in Las Cruces with taking care of dogs. We're just absolutely loving it. So today I was saying right before the show that somehow, some way, folks, we're going to manifest a relationship with Zach, and somehow he's going to be involved with us here at the Dog Connection Show and with Barkhouse, which is the other project we have. But first, we want to know a little bit about you, Zach, and tell us I know you have an incredible story. So would you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah, sure. I'll do my best to give you the Cliff Notes version because I can get lost in some of it. But I entered animal welfare in a very roundabout, natural, organic way. You know, I've always loved dogs. I grew up loving dogs and grew up loving animals in general. Had rescue dogs all my life. But it was not something I planned to do as a career. It was never anything that I thought to myself, I can't wait till I become a rescuer or become involved in the pet industry in some way. That was never a focus. I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was a kid. You know, all my godfathers are fighter pilots. My dad's an aeronautical engineer and a pilot. But really, fate intervened, and I drank myself into liver failure. I drank and drugged myself into liver failure at age 28. So at 28 years of age, I was diagnosed with end-stage liver disease and given 90 days to live without a liver transplant. And what that meant essentially is that I was dying. I didn't have any hope of getting a liver transplant because you need 6 months sobriety to get one. I got admitted to Bakersfield Memorial Hospital. I stayed there for 6 weeks, essentially dying of liver failure, getting worse and worse and worse by the day. My family ended up breaking me out of the hospital. I got admitted to the comprehensive transplant program at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, which is where I was born. I'm still a transplant patient there 12 years later. But what really happened was when I got released from the transplant hospital and sent home, I started to work with my dogs. You know, I was desperately in need of a liver transplant. I needed 6 months sobriety to get it, and I wasn't going to survive unless I did something drastic in my life. So I started working with my dogs. I started adding foster dogs to my pack. I started walking kind of just one step at a time. But really, I started living for something other than myself. I put all of my focus, all of my energy into rehabilitating my foster dogs and into making posters for them, adoption posters, taking pictures, writing fun, creative stories. And for the first time, you know, in a very long time, if not forever, my focus went away from all the pain and agony and trauma that was going on in between years. And it was focused on the animals. And so that's all I did every single day was work for the Humane Society, my local Humane Society, started their large dog foster program. I was going to the hospital every week for, you know, intensive treatment and imaging and all of these things to try to keep me alive so that I could be eligible for transplant. And long story short, what happened was by the time I got 6 months sobriety, I no longer needed a liver transplant. So working with my dogs, and that's a very miraculous statement because when you are end stage, they call it end stage for a reason.
My husband died of liver cancer, so I'm familiar. Yeah, and my mother did too. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a very dangerous disease, and that's why I'm still a transplant patient is because of the dangers that come with acute scarring of the liver. The next challenge for me will no doubt be liver cancer and liver nodules. When you have the liver disease like I do and the damage that I've put my body through, cancer and not growths on the liver are what we really have to keep an eye out for. So people always ask me, if you didn't get a liver transplant, why are you still a transplant patient? And it's because I was that sick. Once you're end stage, you're always a transplant patient. And I just, because of my age, because I removed alcohol and drugs from my life, because I just radically changed everything. You know, living for my dogs changed my perspective on everything. It allowed me the opportunity to take myself out of this very dangerous neighborhood that was my mind and focus it on something else. You know, service over self is a statement that is kind of trite, but it is 100% critically important when referring to a person like me. I'm one of those people that can just latch onto an idea or a thought until it kills me. And working for my dogs allowed me to free up my mental space, free up my emotional space, and start working on actual spirituality. My dogs led me to an understanding of God. My dogs led me to the idea of loving myself. You know, I think honestly, if you break down all of our struggles, if you look at the three of us here that are on this podcast, or the 3.5 million people that live in the United States of America, the number one common denominator is a lack of self-worth. And when we get in a spiritual funk or a position that leads us to alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever, it's because we don't feel as good about ourselves as we could. And my dogs led me to, I still don't feel like I should, I think, about myself, but I have some modicum of appreciation for myself and some kind of my dogs were able to help me recognize that I am a good person, that I am even a wonderful person in some ways, that I have the ability to change people's lives for the better, that I have the ability to relate and to help, and that I have purpose. That's maybe the main one. I never had purpose in my entire life other than to feed alcohol and drugs into my system, to numb the pain. That was my only purpose in life, was to try to not feel the pain I was feeling. And living with dogs just and fundamentally changed all that. Really helped me address my issues as they exist, helped me to maintain sobriety. I'll be 12 years sober coming up October 12th. And everything, Marley's Mutts was just born out of all that. It was all of a sudden, I'm not going to die anymore. You know, I don't need a liver transplant. I've, at that time, through my rehabilitation, probably rehabbed 30 dogs, and it was just off to the races. Everyone kept saying, well, perhaps this is what you should do for a living. And I was like, what? Start a dog rescue? And they're like, yes, you should do that. That's what you should do. And I'm going, nah, I still had such low self-worth. I said, I'll never be able to do this. No one's going to, I'm just a drunk with a dream. No one's ever going to, you know, embrace, you know, me. It was a very female dominated genre as well. You know, it was even pretty tribal. It was kind of a hard genre to infiltrate, you know, and I just didn't have the self-confidence to do so, but enough people in my community saw this, you know, and at the time I was yellow. I had a 9 months pregnant swollen belly. I had a catheter in my back.
Ascites, yeah.
Yeah, ascites is a terrible condition. You know, I had preliminary esophageal varices. I had you know, varicose veins in my throat. I was as sick as a sick person can be. And my community really just saw me wandering around, putting up all these posters of dogs. This is pre-social media. So this was just posters that we didn't have, you know, really Facebook or Instagram or anything like that. So I was just sitting down at night with my whole pack, and I'd take wonderful pictures and I'd write hilarious stories about, like, I'd give them personalities and you know, it's my own little like screenwriting kind of soiree where I would just put personality to them. And I'd always, you know, if I had, for instance, black dogs, I would choose a significant figure in African-American history to focus on, right? To just educate people, whether it was Marcus Garvey or John Coltrane or something like that. And I would just make them interesting, just make them fun to read. Because before it was just, this is foo-foo and foo-foo is potty trained. And, you know, it's just very anticlimactic and not very engaging. So I tried to make it funny, sometimes inappropriate. And before you know it, there'd be, you know, 5, 10, 15 people gathered at these areas where I'd put up all my posters. You know, I'd have 10, 12 posters up, and there'd be a whole bunch of people just reading them. And this was at the ice cream store and at the veterinary hospital, at the coffee shop, at the market, all these different places. And that was my routine. Every day I'd just go put up my posters. I'd do adoption dates. I'd go for walks. I'd take pictures and rinse, repeat, go to the shelter, pick up dogs. And before you knew it, Marley's Mutts was born, and we were off to the races, and people started volunteering. People started offering to be on my board of directors to help me from an organizational standpoint. Finally, I got the guts to incorporate nonprofit, you know, and became a nonprofit organization in retroactive to 2009. So it's just a wild ride. It's a true American dream, or a person who could not have felt any lower emotionally. I could not have been any lower physically. was reborn into this incredible world of rescue, and I was 1,000,000% rescued in the process. I think I'm still being rescued on a daily basis. You know, my dogs are still what hold me accountable. We're always fostering animals, and always we have a foster horse, a 135-pound foster dog sitting at my feet. And these animals always keep me honest with myself, because if I'm not being honest, they'll hold me accountable. They'll let me know that my energy isn't good.
Yeah. You know, when I hear you talk like this at the Dog Connection show, we try and find those people that have been influenced and have been helped by dogs. And you obviously are one of them, but somehow, some way, you must have connected with a dog that gave you that peace of mind and that insight to yourself and what you needed.
Yeah.
And obviously you've given back now to help
Marley.
the dogs.
His name is Marley. This is, I don't know if you guys can see, but this
Let's
is
look
my
here.
boy. So that is my
Oh,
dog,
yeah,
Marley.
yeah.
And Marley's also enshrined on the wall up there and over there. And Marley was my Rottweiler pit bull. He was my everything. And when I was coming into sobriety, I was scared of everything. People, places, and things. Absolutely everything terrified me. I'd never been without alcohol or drugs. And I had this lab shepherd cross named Tug, who's from the shelter, and he embodied all of my anxieties. Every single part of my spiritual transom that was unhealthy, he embodied. He just soaked up all of that, and he was this
Wow.
terribly nervous, insecure dog. Whereas Marley, his brother, the same age, got him from basically the same time at the Mojave shelter. Marley was this Rottweiler pit bull, looked terribly intimidating. He's 95 pounds. Pit bull structure, Rottweiler color, but he had everything I wanted as a human being. Ladies wanted to be with him, men wanted to be like him, right? and when he would enter a room, he had this calm confidence about him that I just admired, and he helped me keep symbiosis within my pack, because I had a pack of animals living with me, and he would keep the peace, and he would suppress perturbations, and he knew how to he owned his space. He just he walked through his space very commandingly.
And he kept you in line.
Yeah, well, he taught me how to be a man. He taught me how to carry myself
wonderful
with dignity
statement.
and pride. Yeah, he really did. He taught me how to carry myself with dignity and pride, even if I wasn't feeling it. Because we started going into schools very soon after that, and I'm by myself. I'm terrified. I'm always scared of public speaking, but I do it all the time. But it's very scary for me. I mean, all of a sudden, within that first year, 2 years, I'm going to schools every week. I'm going to different institutions to speak and to share my testimony, to talk about sobriety, to talk about pit bulls, to talk about rescue, recovery. And when I had him with me, he just gave me that confidence. He helped me embody those characteristics. And that was critically important for me, because honestly, I was faking it. I did not feel inherently confident. I felt scared. I felt intimidated, but it was kind of suit up or shut up time. And he helped me get through that. I don't want to say we were faking it. He helped me act as if I were confident. And that helped me learn how to be confident. Or more confident.
Oh, that's fabulous. Well, I know you've had a fantastic support system. So tell us who all these people are here.
So the little girl is my daughter, Shiloh. The woman is my wife, Heather. Dude in the middle is her dad, my father-in-law, Mr. Glenn. And then you got Avery, Cora, Oliver, and Colton. Colton was adopted. He's the dog with the cast on. He was one of our foster dogs at the time. Our sweet Avery, the pit bull, she's passed away. But Cora's at my feet. Oliver's in the room. Lily's our other dog who's not pictured, but that's part of my pack. That's my crew.
Yeah. So tell us about this dog. Who is this?
That's Naji. Yeah, so Naji's a really spectacular special boy who came all the way from Saudi Arabia. We had a rescuer reach out to us 3 years ago. Her name is Ahad, Aahd. And Ahad is a amateur rescuer, somebody who wants to do the impossible in Saudi Arabia, which is push the culture to focus on strays, to focus on dogs, to focus on the medicine that they provide. The idea that dogs are medicine. This is not an idea that is well understood in Saudi Arabia. Mm-hmm. Saudi Arabia is a borderline Islamic law region. They don't have animal shelters. They don't have rescues. It's a very difficult place to be a dog. So she'd found him in the streets and needed an advocate, and she basically begged me on Facebook to help with him. And I didn't know how to say no, and I'm so glad we said yes. You know, it was a very difficult time to get him over here. You know, we got Jockey, the good people at Jockey, who I work with, helped us get him over to New Jersey from Saudi Arabia. He's paralyzed, I should mention. He was hit by a car in Saudi Arabia and does not have functional legs. That's why it was such a big deal. That's why we had to get him out of that country. He just simply would have been euthanized. So we did. We got him to New Jersey, and all of a sudden, I had some business for 48 hours in New Jersey, and I got this paralyzed dog in my hotel room that's the size of a closet in New York, and I have this dog who I can't get out of the crate because he wants to bite me, who's flown all the way from Saudi Arabia. He's been in a crate for 40 hours, and so we had to figure it out real quickly. I also had, you know, he weighed nothing. He was so skinny and so malnourished. And I had to carry him 3 blocks to get to the nearest thing of grass to go to the bathroom. So I'm going down the elevator. People are staring at me going, who is this crazy tattooed guy with a dog that wants to bite him, who's peeing on him? His legs don't work.
Wow.
And it just was a very bizarre situation because, you know, I'm carrying this dog who looks terrified, is terrified, paralyzed. He's incontinent. And but we figured it out. And we've since become you know, spiritual compatriots. I absolutely love that dog. He lives at our rescue ranch here in Tehachapi. He's got his own kingdom that is called Wheelie World, which is our
cool.
Yeah, that's our handy-capable dog zone at the ranch. Wheelie World is his whole area. He has like a domicile where all the wheelie dogs live in, and then, you know, there's just a big space with artificial grass and shade and stuff. That's his spot. So he, you know, and the reason people ask, why on earth would you spend the resources to bring over a dog from Saudi Arabia when there's dogs in America that are struggling? And I get it. I totally get it. And there are, and the answer is because he needed an advocate, and we were in a position to help. You know, there are thousands of shelters, thousands of rescues across the United States of America. And I think a dog is a dog, to be perfectly honest. And I think some of these larger rescues that really demonstrate a point that helps showcase what's going on in certain regions of the world are even more important because we're pushing cultural change. We're shifting cultural paradigms, and we're helping other nations to understand what's important. And we're really having kind of a collective, we're pausing collectively and trying to say, all right, what's important? What are certain ideals that we should focus on? You know, should we be putting a lot of value in the lives of dogs? Should we put value on extrapolating their potential? And what I say is 100%, absolutely. Dogs are medicine. Dogs are if people learn how to dive into the human-animal bond and all that it's capable of, they will be amazed before they are let down, because the amount of progress, the amount of growth you can go through with a dog at your side is essentially limitless. And I know that
I couldn't agree with you more on that. That is really in line with what the show is about. We truly believe that a dog is a gift, and that it is given to us for a reason. As a matter of fact, when Gaetan first met me, or not first met me, when I first asked Gaetan to come onto the show, he was like, oh, I don't know. And then I did a little video that showed that the dog and the mind and the connection and the human bond that occurs, it was like, he said, like a light bulb went off, and I got to be involved. Right, Gaetan?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example. Rose, come here. So Rose is a biped. She's a double amputee. Come here, sweetie. So, you know, I'm a person who, my old tendencies are to focus on, you know, kind of a poor me stance. You know, I'll look at, you know, I have liver disease, or I had back surgery, or, you know, I'm an insomniac. I didn't sleep last night. You know, my tendencies are to feel sorry for myself and to get stuck in the rut that sympathy creates. And this dog, you know,
a double amputee. She's got no front.
She's a double amputee, has no front legs, and has never known a bad day in her entire life.
Let's see her again.
Cora Rose.
Look at her. Look at that baby. Oh, oh, how cute. Yeah. What a cutie.
And she has this ability to remind all of us not only what we're capable of, but, well, yes, what we are capable of in pain and in growth, you know, because this is a dog that she came to us with broken front legs. We tried to save her legs. That was not possible. So we had to do the unthinkable, which was amputate her front legs. And just that idea, people could not process. Veterinarians could not process. They said, well, if you take off her front legs, she will have no quality of life. We don't support you. We won't support you. And I think our culture in general is just, it's freakish, or it's just too much for us to visually conceptualize. We can't understand how on earth a dog could be happy when you remove its front two legs. I mean, how's that even possible? And what happened is she turned into the happiest dog I've ever experienced. I mean, she has a freaking glow coming off of her at all times. I mean, you can practically see it. She just emanates gratitude and positive energy. Mm-hmm. And my brain always swings back to negative sometimes. I'm just being honest. My brain will swing back to pessimism. If I'm in a particular spiritual funk, if I'm not sleeping, if I'm sick, if I'm feeling sorry for myself, whatever, that's the area I end up in. And if I spend a couple minutes with Cora, I'm quickly reminded of where I should be and where I can be. And she really helps me like radically swing right back over into gratitude and into a place that's more sensible and more productive, and she does that not only for me, but everybody who follows her page. I read the comments and the messages, and the folks that are inspired by her ability to be in the now, regardless of her limitations.
Yeah.
Is incredible. We tend to focus, our attitude tends to be, a lot of us is, well, if I only had X, I would be successful. If I only had Y variable, then I would be happy. If I only had this, then I could be in the moment. If I only had whatever. It's always something. It's always some variable that we don't have that's preventing us from being happy. And here's Cora Rose with no front legs, doesn't have the ability to do a lot of things.
And doesn't realize she's handicapped. That's the beauty about dogs. You cut off a limb or whatever, and they just know how to compensate for it. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it wasn't easy for her.
You had a question, didn't you, about the correctional facility?
Yes, I read on your Facebook page about your involvement with the California City Correctional Facility, and I would like to know more about the work you're doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. California City Correctional Facility is where we started our Positive Change program. So Positive Change is a comprehensive inmate canine training program whereby we take rescue dogs and send them to prison to live for a period of 3 months. It is a 14-week-long program. We have 10 to 12 trainers working full-time on this. We operate in 7 state facilities. So that's 6 state prisons in California and 1 girls' juvenile facility. So we have 2 programs at North Kern State Prison, 1 program at Wasco State Prison. We've had programs at Corcoran State Prison. We have a program at Tehachapi State Prison, Norco State Prison, and Bakersfield Juvenile Justice. And the point of those programs is to not only rehabilitate rescue dogs that need rehabilitation, that need rules, boundaries, limitations, that need slight behavior modification, that need confidence. Many of them just need to learn how to be dogs again. And they go in to live in a prison for 3 months where they are trained 13 and a half hours a day by our inmate students. Our staff goes in once a week. We spend 3 to 4 hours there. We go over how they're feeling spiritually. We go over their sobriety. We go over the dogs. We go over the curriculum. We go over their homework. They have to give speeches. It's a very, very immersive, very difficult program that requires 100% focus. And if you're not focused, you're ejected from the program. And we deal with primarily violent offenders, guys who have been incarcerated or will be incarcerated for very long periods of time. We're talking anywhere between 8 and life. We have many what are called LWOPs, life without the possibility of parole. And the program's been an outrageous success. It has been something that I just could not have envisioned how successful it's been and how many more doors have opened in terms of the magic of the human canine bond. About half of our guys that have been released from prison are now involved in the pet industry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I bet this program has changed their lives.
Yeah,
incredibly. Yeah.
What's special about the pet industry and the rescue industry in general is I'm one of the obvious people who was accepted into this genre, right? I'm an alcoholic and an addict who had no prior experience in this work, and I spent the last 16 years of my life fully devoted to animals, and they accepted me. They didn't say, because you used to be
Right.
There was no, they accepted me full on. And that's the same level of acceptance we found with our inmates, is they're getting released from prison. And in some cases, the public at large wants to work with them before they work with a trainer who wasn't incarcerated. So we're finding huge amounts of acceptance, which is exactly what our society needs in terms of accepting formerly incarcerated. Our culture has done an absolutely terrible job of allowing people to mess up. We do not allow people to mess up. Regardless of if you committed a crime at 16, 17, and were locked up for 20 years, we want to cancel you out for the rest of your existence.
Exactly. It's a cancel culture. Yeah.
Not only cancel you out for the rest of your existence, but potentially cancel out the rest of the people related to you and give you no opportunity at upward mobility or even to sustain yourself or your family. In many cases, when people get out of prison, they have many extenuating circumstances like child support or victims restitution or other fees that they have to pay while being incarcerated. And you're not paid while you're incarcerated. So, and they also can't get jobs if they're felons, especially if they're violent felons or if they're repeat felons. So these are people that do not have a way up or a way out, and we're trying to offer them a way up and a way out. And it's
and wow! And using the power of a dog is just a phenomenal idea. I had an aha moment that came into my mind, thinking, that's an awareness factor. Don't you think, Eitan?
Totally.
That here we are. We forget about those people that are locked up or like you said, incarcerated, and they're the forgotten souls. And now they're given an opportunity. And what better teachers than a dog to bring them into a new life, because they're so unconditional and loving and caring. So I can see that really is a very valuable program.
Yeah, a big part of it, honestly, is understanding where you are emotionally. It is not encouraged to be emotionally intelligent or
it's not encouraged to be emotionally intelligent.
It's not encouraged to be emotionally intelligent or emotive in prison.
I got you.
In prison, it's not. If you show emotion, that's weakness, and weakness is something you're taught to not express from the moment you enter prison. And
that's true.
And so when you get out of prison, then you're not used to being emotional. You're not used to sharing what you're feeling. How are you supposed to succeed? Things like sadness can be reprocessed as anger because people don't know how to understand what sadness is. So honestly, what working with the dogs has been so important, because we're relying on these guys to rehabilitate the dogs. Before they grab that leash, they have to be understanding what their transom is experiencing. Are you sad? Are you tired? Are you lonely? Are you angry? Are you resentful? If so, you must address those emotions and process them before you start training this dog, because this is an umbilical cord that is transmitting those emotions to this dog. So let's pause. Talk to me about what you're feeling. What is it on the outside? Is it your girl? Is it somebody else in here? Is it your frustrations with yourself? What are you experiencing as a human being? Let's work through it so then you can then work with this dog. Let's be honest about what we're feeling. And what's been so beautiful is the kind of the floodgates have opened. Once guys get an opportunity to share what they're feeling, they really, really continue to do so. They continue to expand on that and continue to be more vulnerable. And that just sets them up for success when they get out. They're really able to communicate what they're feeling and how they're feeling. And that's a huge, that's just part of being an adult. It's part of being somebody who's accountable. And that's a critically important factor in being alive outside and part of the world. And that's what we're trying to, and also, aside from the emotional developments that take place, just to be loved by an animal for however many hours a day, when you've been living in this environment that does not give you love.
Especially those that have been in solitary confinement for a period of time, where they have to have visitors seeing them through a glass window. There is no touch. There's no interaction. There's no love. That dog gives you a kiss, and oh my God, the world melts.
Yeah. There are. Imagine if you're a person who's looking at a long sentence and you're incarcerated. What are the things that are helping you feel okay about yourself? You're locked up. Your family doesn't come see you. You may not have very great connections inside of the facility. So what do you have to live for? What do you have to hold on to? What do you have for hope? And I think what the dogs are able to provide is at least something that projects love and acceptance back to these guys and says, look, I love you. I accept you. regardless. And that's a great building block. You got to have that before you can have anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be capable of true love to give to others unless you got some ability to love yourself. And so the dogs, they're just relentless. They just bombard you with this love and affection until you
They fight over you too.
Yeah.
What about me? What about me?
Totally.
Yeah.
What I found admirable is a chance, a second chance to people in jail and coming back and having a purpose in life and having hope. And I think this is what you're doing with this work.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's important to understand how much potential these individuals have. Once someone gets sent away, and same with these dogs included. So many of these dogs, I mean, what do these guys have in common with the dogs, right? The dogs have been abandoned. They've been sent to a dog prison.
Yeah.
You know, their family's given up on them. They're not believed in. They have whatever deficiency or defect of character, right? They're not potty trained. They're not good with others. They're too shy. They're reactive, right? What are these guys? They're too shy. They're reactive. Their families gave up on them. Their similarities are ridiculous. I mean, the parallels are so they just can relate. You know, and I can relate to these guys, and so that's what we do is just help each other feel normal. And if you start to view yourself through that lens, then you can really grow. Then you can really. Let me back up a little bit. One of the things that's so special about this is that our culture has needed a way to accept formerly incarcerated for a very long time. And it's just been tough for us to do it because we see these lockup raw shows. We see all the rest of these shows in prisons that are just so intense. So we have a tendency to want to keep formerly incarcerated people at arm's distance. Like, oh man, that's so intimidating.
And label them.
Right.
Yes, totally. But when we see them through the prism of a dog trainer, when I post pictures of inmates on the Positive Change page who are getting licked by dogs, I mean, the unanimous feeling is it's this odd juxtaposition where people just go, oh, you know, and then they in viewing the dog being affectionate with that human, they can then start to be affectionate with that human. You know, when they see a dog loving somebody who's got tattoos on their face or is physically intimidating, right? It gives us an opportunity to start to love that person. So working with dogs is an incredible way to afford a second chance to formerly incarcerated because it puts our guard down. We start to look at these guys and gals as dog rescuers and dog trainers, not as incarcerated. And when that happens, we start to see them as human beings. You know, we are part of this huge collective conspiracy to tag for the rest of their lives felonious Americans as permanently broken. Like you are fundamentally incapable of being accepted into our society, which could not be any further from the truth. The amount of brilliance and, you know, so many people that are incarcerated are victims of drug and alcohol dependence.
Right.
Most people that have a penchant for drug and alcohol abuse are very smart, are cerebral individuals, are smart people with a lot of creativity who sometimes just don't understand how to control their emotions. You know, and we're missing out. There's 2.5 million incarcerated people in America. 25% of the world's incarcerated are locked behind bars in America. And we've basically taken all focus off of them and cast them aside seemingly permanently if we could. You know, it's a really unjust system.
I was just going to say, you know, and the injustice of it is that there are so many people based on their race or their religion or whatever, they get incarcerated unjustly for long periods of time, which are totally unnecessary. And they're there. I mean, I happen to have one of my relatives in my family was incarcerated for 12 years and came out not exactly like you said, not knowing what to do. Really not knowing what to do, but in that kind of an environment where you don't know how to reach out, you don't know who to reach out to, and then when you do get out, you're kind of left alone. So having a dog in the prison, not only from the training standpoint, but from the companionship standpoint. Now, do these dogs get to literally live in the cells with the prisoners?
They can't live in the cells. In some of our prisons, they're allowed in the cells, but for the most part, they sleep in a travel carrier, in like a travel container that are lined up against the wall. Typically, we have 10 dogs per prison program. It varies between 6 and 10. So we'll have 10 dogs, 30 guys. and those are 30 inmates that are constantly involved in the program. Those dogs are training 13 hours a day. They're only outside when they eat, and they're only outside when they eat. They're only away from the guys when they sleep, and that affords this incredible bond, and it affords a lot of really magical connections that make one another's lives better. There's so many other ancillary benefits to the program in terms of just safety within the facility. Interactions between race, which are very rare in prison settings, gets guys ready to interact with people from the opposite race when they get out. They're getting time with women in terms of our trainers, so they're getting to interact with human beings in a non-authoritative setting. I mean, can you imagine never having interacted with a woman in a non-authoritative setting for 15 years and then getting out of prison? It's a very strange.
Yeah.
I mean, how awkward would that interaction be? And the thing that keeps our program going is our trainers. Our trainers are predominantly strong women who really understand how to carry themselves, how to be affectionate, how to be assertive, how to be caring, how to be empathetic. And
that's most women. Most women are affectionate, and
yeah.
And Keaton's laughing.
I'm smiling, but I agree.
Yeah.
They're incredible human beings, and it's really our ability to apply ourselves to them and to be emotionally available to them that makes a difference. We could go in there and bark orders and say this or that and treat them like anybody else, but those are our brothers and sisters, and they always will be. And there's something so valuable for me as a human being to get to do this, to get to advocate for really the most disenfranchised cross-section of Americans by far. I mean, it is really, I consider myself very, very lucky to be on kind of, I don't want to say the ground floor, but we are engaged in a fight and in a struggle for really tens of millions of Americans who have been incarcerated or are currently incarcerated, and the tens of millions of kids that depend on these incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. And this is kind of the last frontier of empathy. This is the last group of people within our society that we have decided to continue to malign because we feel like we have some sort of like obligation to do so, to like keep us safe. It's a very crooked, because really the opposite is true. If you don't build someone up, if you don't give them tools or opportunity, when they get out of prison, they're going to commit crimes.
Exactly.
Victims. They're going to create victims. That is the essence of recidivism. If you don't have a way up, if you don't have a way out, if you don't have a way to enrich or fulfill your life, you're going to fall back on the only options that you have, which are committing crimes. And those crimes have victims attached to them. And I hear very little accountability from our criminal justice system, whether it be at the state or federal level, for how many people are released into the fold without any sort of rehabilitation whatsoever to just go commit more crimes. We very rarely focus on that. We spend almost $200 billion a year locking people up in America, and we spend less than $6 million in the state of California on programming. I mean, it is a portion of a drop in the bucket. And it's a travesty. It's a shame. It's pathetic. And it's only creating more victims, because we've basically shown that we don't care to provide programming and a real means at rehabilitation. Who in their right mind thinks locking someone up in probably the scariest place that could exist on planet Earth for 10 years will somehow magically cure you of your criminal tendencies?
Exactly. And who puts them in there because they had some drugs for 10 years, same equivalent to killing somebody? It isn't equal. But I wanted to go on to our next subject, which is the pet rescue pilots. Julian, you had the opportunity recently to be with Julian. Tell us about your friendship. I was shocked when I heard that you were with him.
Oh, that's my dude. I love JJ. He's my guy. I met Julian a while back. He invited me down to speak at Beverly Hills Rotary Club, which I did, and we've been pretty inseparable since. He's one of those people that I check in with just about every day. And Julian's a pet rescue pilot. When we first got together, he was flying, but he hadn't started pet rescue pilot. So being a guy that's been in nonprofit world for a very long time, it kind of helped. And I'm older than him. I'm 40. I just turned 41 2 days ago.
You old. You are old. Yeah.
He's in his late 20s. And so, just there to kind of advise him on different things. I've been through it. I've been through the ringer. I've been through the criticism. I've been through all the things that he's faced getting into the world.
The bashing.
Yeah. It's a very, you won't, I don't know. But I tend not to. Half of me wants to address the inherent negativism that exists in rescue, and half of me just wants to leave it alone because it's so unhelpful. It just
Right.
Yeah.
I root for people, man. I just root for people. I root for rescues. I root for all kinds. If there's anything I can do to help people get into the sport to make a difference, I'm all about it. You know, there's this toxic competitivism is senseless to me. It really serves nobody, least of all the dogs. And that's one of the reasons why it's so great to work with Julian, is because he's a positive guy. He's always trying to move and shake and do more. I mean, I connected him
Yeah.
with my friends at SPCA International a few months ago, and boy, did they have a job for him. So he spent, they operate Operation Baghdad Pups, where they bring dogs back that servicemen and women, usually special forces, have found in Iraq, Syria,
Oh, I
those
didn't know
areas,
that.
and fly those. So they did a rescue flight. They chartered a plane from Erbil, which is Kurdistan, northern Iraq, brought these dogs back over to New York, and then Julian flew them, reunited them with their servicemen and women who had found them overseas
Oh,
all of last month. So Julian flew dogs
really?
up and down
Gaetan, I'm excited over this because Gaetan was originally scheduled to come out to Las Cruces and film Julian and fly with him, and
great.
because we're doing a series, and Gaetan was going to be doing that. Well, now he's coming on October 8th, so he'll be flying with Julian for that. But that's a good subject too. Gaetan's got so much to do. I'm trying to get Gaetan to move to Las Cruces along with Roman. Roman is our other co-host, because then we could have the entire family here. So Zach, you might end up wanting to move to Las Cruces. You never know.
I've been through New Mexico. I'm a big fan, and there's
Are ya?
places to snowboard. Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got room. We've got room
Yeah.
here, so
I'm into it.
okay, all right. Well, actually, in Las Cruces here, as I said, my friend Kelly Barker, she runs Bark House, which is a hub that has spay, neuter, transport, etc. It's an entire system, and we're bringing the Dog Connection show into that environment, and of course, Julian's project or Julian's work comes hand in hand with it. So somehow, some way, we'd like to work with you in a number of different areas. So we'll keep that open. Okay.
Pet rescue flying is incredible. It's an incredible resource. I flew with Julian last weekend, and we went up to, we made many stops in Modesto to pick up and drop off dogs, and then Eugene, Salem, Astoria, Washington, and then Vancouver, British Columbia, Victoria, British Columbia, Vancouver Island. And it's remarkable. I mean, the number of dogs that are needed up there is really tremendous. I mean, they do not have a flow of rescue dogs. So the idea of adopt, don't shop has definitely permeated the culture, but they've run out of dogs. So we got to get dogs up there.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to do it is flying, because I've done long ground transports, I've flown, and long ground transports are tough. It's tough to be one of the drivers because it's loud. It's tough to have to stop and let them out to potty individually. It's just a tough experience. Whereas flying is so much more quick. It's orders of magnitude quicker, and it's an environment where they seem to fall asleep like immediately. The hum of the engine, the altitude, very comfortable. It's a wonderful place, wonderful way to transport.
Okay, well, I think that's about it for our show. Let me see. Okay, did I show this one?
That's my sweet Avery. She passed away 3 months ago today, and that's our little daughter when she was, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 months old, maybe about a year. Yeah, she's probably about a year there. That was her girl. That was her very special. They had an incredible bond.
And I saw that that video. He had a video of his wife. Somebody sent you a picture or portrait that they had done of
one of our
dog.
student inmates. Yeah, his name is Vo. He's been in prison his entire adult life, and he got out of prison 4 months ago. He painted when my Marley died. He painted. This was 3 years ago while he was still incarcerated at Wasco State Prison. He painted a just incredibly beautiful mural of Marley, which we have at the ranch. And then after Avery died, he painted this for our family, and I got to surprise my wife with it a couple of days ago.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, Zach,
Zach, we want to thank you so much for being on the show. We look forward to working with you again. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you on, and we're going to do something. I just know it. So thank you very much.
This is just the first encounter.
All right. Anytime, you guys, I would love to be
Thank
on.
you for your work you're doing with Prisoner. That's very important.
Thanks,
you.
Zach. Okay, Gaetan.
Yes, Kathy.
So what do we have planned now? When are you coming out here, and what are we doing?
On the 10th of October, I will take the flight, arrive at around 5:30 in El Paso.
Okay.
About an hour from your place or less. And then you're supposed to feed me.
Yes, we're going to do that. We're going to feed you, and we're going to bring you all the people in that are working here. I'm so excited about being here, folks. Yeah. It's really a wonderful thing for us.
Yeah, and the next day I will be with the organization, and I will do some interviews, some filming. The 12 will be with Julian on the plane. I will do the filming also of the operation that day. And on the 13th, I'll be back in LA. From there, I will take the plane back to Chicago. I will start editing that material, and then we will have a lot of good things to share.
Yes, we will.
Finally, I came out of my cage. I will be able to come out of my cage and film.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Gaetan.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for being there.
Okay. Bye-bye.